is Your Path, Live, with Bishop Mark, live from Dallas Universal Life Church in Dallas, Texas.
Well, good evening, folks. Welcome to Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. Let me turn this volume down so we don't get a little echo here. Sorry about that. Oh, gotta be something, huh? Welcome to Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. I am your host, Bishop Mark Zorn, coming to you live from Dallas Universal Life Church in Dallas, Texas, as we do almost every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. This is the third to the last of second to last of our episodes. We only have three left for the season, for the end of season 3. So July 1st will be our end of our season. So I thought I would let y'all know that. It's a good time to be calling in, right? Okay. All right. Let's get right with it. This show is about you. That's why it's called Your Path. And there's a reason for that. Because I want you to call in. And the way you call in is you see that little thing going across the bottom of your screen or the top of your screen, which if you look at your phone, it's the top. If you look at your computer, it's the bottom. It says https tinyurl.com/Bishop Mark. tinyurl.com/Bishop Mark. Now, this works for the radio too, folks. Although you're listening on the Zoo tonight, you can do that as well. tinyurl.com/Bishop Mark. That's how you log in. That's how you call into me. What do you want to talk about? Well, I want to talk about you. I want to talk about your faith, your Christianity, your life, your day, your relationships, your family, your kids, your parents, your school, your work, whatever's going on in your life, your faith, whatever you need to talk about or pray about with me. That's what I'm here for. That's what this whole show is about. Now, of course, we do have a topic that we talk about every week, and that's important as well. If you want to comment on the topic, please do that so as well. But I understand this. I want you to be able to know that you can break in at any time. Don't think that I'm getting busy talking about a subject you can't break in. This song is about you. That's the important part. So please call in. Also, there's a QR code on your screen. If you know how to use that, just take your phone, hold it up there to put it on camera. Hold it up there, bring up a link, hit the link, and they'll put you in our green room ready to go. I'm really not there to talk to you folks. I know that y'all are watching, and I do appreciate that. I just wish you'd give me a call and say hello. All right, we only got 3 episodes left this season. Let's get right to it, though, because we have a lot to talk about today. All right. Again, welcome to Your Path Live with Bishop Mark, and I am the Most Reverend Dr. Mark Zorn, Archbishop and founder of Dallas Universal Life Church, and I am glad that you've chosen to spend this time with me tonight. Now, last week, we asked a very direct question. What are you actually willing to change? Not what do you wish were different? Not what do you hope God will somehow fix while you continue doing everything exactly the same way? Not what do you say when you're tired of continuing to feed it? Not when you say when you're tired of while continuing to feed it, protect it, excuse it, and return it. We asked, what are you actually willing to change? You willing to change? And tonight, we take that conversation one step further. Because changing your life is not only about what you begin. Sometimes it is about what you finally stop carrying. Sometimes the next chapter does not begin when another door opens. Sometimes the next chapter begins when you finally put something down. A burden, a resentment, a regret, a relationship, an old identity, a wound you have allowed to become your entire personality, a role you were never meant to continue playing, a responsibility that was never yours in the first place, a version of yourself that helped you survive one season, but is now preventing you from living in the next one. Tonight, we're going to deal with a truth that many people do not want to hear. The truth? You cannot take everything with you. You cannot carry every grudge into your future. You cannot carry every old argument into your future. You cannot carry every person who refuses to grow into your future. You cannot carry every habit that kept you numb into your future. You cannot carry every label somebody placed on you into your future. You cannot keep dragging yesterday behind you and still expect to move freely into tomorrow. There are things that served a purpose for a season. There are things that you needed once. There are things you tolerated because you did not know any better. There are things that you accepted because you did not believe you deserved better. There are things you carry because you were strong enough to carry them. But just because you are strong enough to carry something does not mean that God is asking you to continue carrying it. And as we move toward the conclusion of season 3 of Your Path Live, this is not simply a conversation about a television season. This is a conversation about your life. What are you taking with you? What needs to remain behind? There are people watching tonight who are tired. Not just physically tired, soul tired, emotionally tired, spiritually tired, tired of explaining, tired of fighting, tired of pretending, tired of carrying people who refuse to carry themselves, tired of cleaning up messes they did not create, tired of being everybody's emergency contact while having nobody they can call when they are the one falling apart, tired of holding everything together, tired of smiling so nobody asks difficult questions, tired of being called strong when they really need is permission to rest. And sometimes the reason you are so tired is not because God has given you too much. Sometimes you're tired because you're carrying things God never told you to pick up. You're carrying guilt that does not belong to you. You're carrying responsibility for somebody else's choices. You're carrying the weight of what other people think. You're carrying the burden of keeping everybody happy. You're carrying the fear that if you stop rescuing people, they may stop loving you. You're carrying conversations that ended years ago. You're carrying things people said when they were angry. You're carrying memories that you replay so often that they feel as though they happened this morning. You're carrying apologies you never received. You're carrying questions that may never be answered. You're carrying the need to make people understand your side. You're carrying the belief that your life cannot move forward until somebody admits what they did to you. That is heavy. No wonder you're tired. No wonder you can't think clearly. No wonder you feel as though you're standing still. You're trying to walk forward while dragging an entire history behind you. Hebrews 12 tells us to throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us, and then to run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Well, notice that the passage does not only say to throw off sin, it says to throw off everything that hinders. There are things that may not look evil. There are things that may not look dramatic. There are things that may not be sinful in themselves, but they're still slowing you down. And if something is keeping you from becoming who God is calling you to become, you have to ask whether it still belongs in your hands. There's been times in my life, I mean, I'm human. Believe it or not, a bishop can't be human. There's been times in my life when I realized that I was carrying more than God had assigned to me. Lots of times. I mean, I could give you example after example after example. You know, attempting to keep a ministry, an organization, a family, a relationship, all those things up while without sufficient help. All of us have done that. We've all tried that. One of the big ones I have that I had problems with is learning that helping people is not the same as allowing them to make you responsible for their lives. That was a tough one. I had to learn that one pretty quickly because people are people. And if you keep giving and giving and giving, they'll keep taking and taking and taking. And they get comfortable. And then you are doing for them and they're not doing for themselves. And that's not doing either one of you any good. Also feeling responsible for people who repeatedly ignored good advice, but returned when the consequences arrived. I'm still bad about that because I still give people other chances. I still want to give people another chance. I can give some of the best advice in the world. I think it is. It's good advice, sound advice, and they go and do what they want to do anyway. Well, then when all hell breaks loose and their world comes crumbling down, well, who do they come back to? And I give them when I told you so. I do. Of course I do. But I also want them to learn from that. And the hard part about that is that you can come back here, but I'm not always going to be here for you to come back to. So you've got to learn from this mistake you made and move on and remember that and not do it again. Keep learning. That's what life's about. There's a difference between compassion and self-destruction. There's a difference between serving and being used. There's a difference between helping somebody and becoming their permanent escape route from responsibility. There's a difference between loving somebody and carrying consequences that belong to them. You can care about people without taking ownership of every decision they make. You can pray for people without allowing their chaos to control your life. You can love people and still tell them no. You can forgive people and still refuse to place yourself back in the same harmful situation. You can be a Christian and have boundaries. In fact, sometimes boundaries are the most honest and loving thing you can establish. Ecclesiastes tells us that there is a season for everything, a time to begin, a time to end, a time to gather, a time to scatter, a time to hold on, a time to let go. We like the part about the time to gather. We like the part about the time to build. We like the time to receive. But we struggle with time to release. We struggle with endings. We struggle with when a relationship changes. We struggle when a role ends. We struggle when the thing that once gave us purpose no longer fits the person we are becoming. And because endings are uncomfortable, we often keep things alive long after they've stopped producing life. We keep trying to revive conversations that have already said everything they needed to say. We keep trying to repair relationships in which only one person is doing the repairing. We keep trying to restore access to people who repeatedly abused the access they had. We keep trying to return to places where we're barely tolerated because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty. We keep trying to recreate old seasons because we're afraid the best is behind us. But everything that was good for you once is not necessarily good for you forever. There are relationships that were meaningful for a season. There are opportunities that taught you something for a season. There are routines that helped you survive for a season. There are ways of thinking that protected you for a season. But when the season changes, your response has to change with it. You do not wear a winter coat in the middle of Texas summer simply because it kept you warm in January. It was useful then. It is unbearable now. And some of you are spiritually suffocating because you are still wearing protection that belonged to an earlier season. You developed walls because somebody hurt you. Those walls protected you for a time, but now nobody can reach you. You learn not to trust because trust was betrayed. That caution protected you for a time, but now you assume everybody is guilty because they've done anything wrong. Before they have done anything wrong, my bad. But now you assume everybody's guilty before they have done anything wrong. That's not going to work. You became fiercely independent because nobody showed up when you needed them. You had independence help you survive, but now you refuse to help, even when help is sincere. You learn to control everything because your life once felt out of control, and that control gave you a sense of safety. But now you cannot rest because you believe everything will collapse if you are not managing every detail. What helped you survive may be preventing you from healing, and it takes courage to admit that. Many people are trapped by roles they learn to play. The strong one, the responsible one, the peacemaker, the rescuer, the funny one, the quiet one, the one who never needs anything, the one who always says yes, the one who takes the blame, the one who keeps the family together, the one who forgives immediately, even when they have not had time to process what happened, the one who is expected to understand everybody while nobody attempts to understand them. Maybe you learned that role as a child. Maybe you learned that your needs created conflict, so you stopped expressing them. Maybe you learned that love had to be earned by being useful. Maybe you learned that people remained close only as long as you gave them what they wanted. Maybe you became the comedian because laughter was the only way you knew how to survive pain. Maybe you became the strong one because falling apart was never an option. But God did not create you to perform one role for the rest of your life. You are allowed to say, I'm not able to do that. You're allowed to say, I need help. You're allowed to say, that hurt me. You're allowed to say, I do not agree. You're allowed to say, I need time to think. You're allowed to say, I cannot continue carrying this. You're allowed to stop being the version of yourself that everybody else finds convenient. That does not mean becoming cruel. That does not mean becoming selfish. It does not mean forgetting your responsibilities. It means becoming honest. And honesty may disappoint people who benefited from your silence. Honesty may anger people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Honesty may confuse people who are accustomed to your automatic yes. But disappointing somebody is not the same as harming them. Some people call you selfish whenever you stop sacrificing yourself for their convenience. Do not confuse their disappointment with your disobedience. So some questions for you. What role have you been playing? Who taught you that you always had to be the strong one? Who taught you that love meant never saying no? Who taught you that being faithful meant tolerating disrespect? Who taught you that setting a boundary was unchristian? Who taught you that you had to keep everybody together, even while you were falling apart? And perhaps the most important question, has God asked you to continue playing that role? Or are you afraid of what will happen when you stop? Some people are carrying guilt about things they did. Others are carrying guilt about things they did not do. Some are carrying guilt because they survived. Some are carrying guilt because they left. Some are carrying guilt because they stayed too long. Some are carrying guilt because they could not save somebody. Some are carrying guilt because they finally chose themselves. Some are carrying guilt because somebody became angry when they set a boundary. But we need to understand the difference between guilt and conviction. Conviction is specific. Conviction says, This action was wrong. Make it right. Conviction points to change. Conviction invites repentance. Conviction gives you a next step. Guilt often becomes vague and endless. Guilt says you are wrong. Guilt says you ruin everything. Guilt says you do not deserve peace. Guilt says you must continue punishing yourself. Guilt keeps you staring backwards. Conviction helps you change direction. If you hurt somebody, apologize. If you took something, restore it where possible. If you lied, tell the truth. If you caused damage, accept responsibility. But once you've confessed, repented, and made amends where possible, you are not required to spend the rest of your life proving that you are sorry. At some point, you must receive the grace you claim to believe God gives to everybody else. Some of you believe in forgiveness as a theological idea. You believe God forgives people. You preach that God forgives people. You encourage other people to accept forgiveness. But when it comes to you, you believe your failure is the exception. You believe your mistake was too large. You believe your past disqualifies you permanently. You believe that continuing to hate yourself is evidence that you are truly repentant. It is not. Self-hatred is not repentance. Permanent shame is not holiness. You do not honor God by refusing the grace God offers. You do not become righteous by endlessly punishing yourself. There comes a moment when you have to say, I was wrong. I accept responsibility. I have learned. I'm changing. And I will not continue carrying the sentence that God has already commuted. That's it. Now stop waiting for an apology to begin healing. There are people who owe you an apology. There always will be. Let us be honest about that. They were wrong. They lied. They betrayed you. They humiliated you. They used you. They abandoned you. They made you promises that they did not keep. They took advantage of your kindness. They hurt you and then acted as though your reaction was the problem. You deserve an apology, but you may never receive one. Some people lack the maturity to admit what they did. Some people have rewritten the story so many times that they now believe their own version. Some people would rather lose a relationship than lose the illusion that they were right. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you because understanding you would require them to face themselves. You cannot build your healing around another person's willingness to take responsibility. You cannot put your future on hold while waiting for somebody to say the words you deserve to hear, rather. Their apology would be meaningful, but your healing cannot depend on it. Forgiveness does not mean saying that what happened was acceptable. Forgiveness does not mean restoring trust automatically. Forgiveness does not mean reopening the door. Forgiveness does not mean pretending there were no consequences. Forgiveness means that what they did will not control what you become. Forgiveness means that you release your right to spend the rest of your life consumed by revenge. Forgiveness means you stop allowing the person who hurt you to occupy the best room in your mind without paying rent. Forgiveness is not always a feeling. Sometimes forgiveness is a decision you make repeatedly. Today, I release it. Tomorrow, the memory returns. Tomorrow, I release it again. And eventually, the memory may remain, but it no longer controls your blood pressure, your mood, your relationships, and your sense of worth. You remember, but you're no longer imprisoned by the memory. This is another big one for me. This whole topic is preaching to myself a lot. I like to give second chances. I like to give third chances, fourth chances. I do, because I feel that maybe this time they got it. The thing that I had to learn how to say was, I can forgive you and still recognize that I cannot trust you with the same access you once had. That's true. And that's normally the case with anybody who does a wrong to somebody. That trust is gone. Forgiveness is free. Trust is rebuilt. Reconciliation requires participation from both people. Forgiveness can begin in one heart. Does that make sense? So when somebody steals from me and they come and apologize and you can try and make amends or tell me they were wrong and get some tears, or still don't trust him the way I used to, and I can't. It just does not going to happen. It can be rebuilt. I'm not saying it will ever be the way it was, but it can be rebuilt over time. And telling people that who have said they're sorry, and I told them I forgive them, they don't understand when I am more cautious around them. I don't give them the same responsibilities. I have to kind of pull back a little bit. Well, you forgave me. Well, why are you doing this now? Why are you not giving me? Why are you punishing me still? I'm not punishing you. I'm just being more cautious. I'm just pulling back a little bit the trust I had in you because it's got to be rebuilt now. Some people say, if you forgave me, everything should return to normal. No. Sometimes forgiveness means accepting that normal was unhealthy. Sometimes forgiveness means blessing somebody from a distance. Sometimes forgiveness means no more arguments because there is no more access. Sometimes forgiveness means you stop trying to convince somebody to become the person they repeatedly refuse to be. Forgiveness frees your heart. Wisdom protects your future. You need both. Now, some people cannot go where you're going. Now, this is difficult because we love people. We want people to grow with us. We want people to heal with us. We want people to understand our vision. We want people to become excited about the direction God is leading us. But everybody who began the journey with you may not complete the journey with you. Some people were companions for one chapter. Some were teachers. Some were warnings. Some were blessings. Some were lessons you paid dearly to learn. Some people knew the old version of you and have no interest in meeting the healed version. They understand how to interact with your weakness. They know how to manipulate your guilt. They know how to trigger your fear. They know how to say, to make you question. They know what to say to make you question yourself. But when you begin to heal, the relationship changes because you change. When you develop boundaries, the relationship changes because you change. When you stop apologizing for existing, the relationship changes. When you stop accepting crumbs, the relationship changes. And when you stop begging for attention, the relationship changes. When you begin expecting mutual respect, the relationship changes. And sometimes the relationship ends. Not because you became cruel, not because you became arrogant, not because you stopped loving, but because the relationship is built around a version of you that no longer exists. You cannot force people to grow. You cannot love somebody into accountability if they are committed to avoidance. You cannot drag somebody into a future they do not want. You cannot keep shrinking so another person will not feel threatened by your growth. You can invite them, you can encourage them, you can pray for them, but you cannot carry them. Okay, moving very quickly here. So I want to take a quick break. It's a new commercial for you guys I want to check out. It's not the most perfect commercial, but you know what? It is what it is. It tells you what it needs to tell you. Let me see if I can pull that up here. 89 degrees at 5:54 p.m. in Dallas right now. Something's coming, folks. It's coming. It's going to be a rough one. Okay, let's see what we got for you. We'll be right back. Something new is on the air at the Zoo Radio Network. New shows, new conversations, more music, more inspiration, and more reasons to listen all week long. Start your week with Mark Zorn Music Monday, every Monday night from 7 until 11. 4 hours of songs, remixes, stories, and music from yours truly, Mark Zorn. Then be inspired and empowered with life lessons with Bishop Mark. Real experiences, honest conversations, practical wisdom, and lessons designed to help you live stronger, move forward, and become the person you were created to be. And when the rest of the world starts winding down, the Zoo is just getting started. Stay up with Zoo Late Night every Tuesday and Friday. More music, fewer interruptions, unexpected favorites, and the perfect soundtrack for your late night hours. Music, talk, faith, entertainment. It is all here on the Zoo Radio Network. Listen now at thezue.net. The Zoo Radio Network, music in motion, faith that inspires.
The Zoo Radio Network exists for one. The Zoo Radio Network exists for one reason: to reach people where they are with music, conversation, and truth that still matters. In a world full of noise, the Zoo is a place for connection, reflection, encouragement, and real talk about faith, life, and purpose. Hi, I'm Sean, and I want to tell you a little more about who the Zoo Radio Network is. We are not backed by corporations. We are not driven by profit. We are powered by people. Your support keeps the Zoo broadcasting not only great Christian music, but also modern pop, classical, country, and live programming that speaks to real life. It allows us to produce shows like Your Path Live with Bishop Mark, stream worship services, amplify unheard voices, and remain accessible to anyone who needs hope. No paywall, no barriers. So, why does your support matter? Running a radio network takes more than passion. It takes broadcasting and streaming infrastructure, music licensing and royalties, studio equipment and technical support, website hosting and digital platforms, outreach, promotion, and community programming. Every dollar given goes directly into keeping the Zoo strong, stable, and growing. This is more than radio. The Zoo is ministry without walls. It reaches the lonely at night. It reaches the seeker who won't walk into a church. It reaches the believer who needs to be reminded they're not alone. When you give, you are not just funding a station. You are investing in lives being touched every single day. How can you help? We have a program designed so that all can give without breaking the bank. One-time gift, make an immediate impact. Monthly partner, become part of the backbone of the Zoo. Sponsor a program or hour of airtime. Dedicate it in honor or memory of someone meaningful. No gift is too small. Every gift moves the mission forward. Stand with us. Keep the signal alive. If the Zoo has encouraged you, challenged you, comforted you, or helped you feel connected, now is your chance to give back. Support the Zoo Radio Network today and help us continue broadcasting hope, truth, and real faith into a world that desperately needs it. Give, share, be part of the voice. Visit www.yourdallas.church and go to the Donate tab to make your tax-deductible donation today. Thank you from all of us at the Zoo Radio Network.
Okay, welcome back to Your Path Live, Bishop Mark. I'm your host, Bishop Mark Zorn, coming to you live from Dallas, Texas, as we do every Wednesday for at least the next three more Wednesdays to July 1st when our season ends this year. Let's get right back to it. Folks, don't forget, you can call in. This show's about you, and that's what that little blue line going across your screen there is. It says Your Path. It says tinyurl.com/Bishop Mark. That's how you get a hold of me. Jeez, why is it still coming up so loud? Here we go. I don't know. Hopefully you're not getting an echo. I don't think you are. I think you're okay. All right. Call in. Let's talk. Let's talk about your faith. Let's talk about your religion. Let's talk about your spirituality. Let's talk about your life. Let's pray. That's what I'm here for. You got any questions? I've got the answers, hopefully. I'm checking. Let me check the chat over here. See somebody's chatting with us. Nothing today yet. Okay. All right. Let's move right on then. Oh, don't forget, the Zoo. I know that both those commercials about the Zoo. There's a lot of changes that happened in the Zoo. If you don't get a chance, please go get a chance to take a look at it. The Zoo, THEZUE.net. Those of you listening on the Zoo tonight, welcome. And I hope you're enjoying the changes as well. Lots of new shows, lots of new things going on there, lots of new songs and music and talk. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Really, seriously, I want to know. THEZUE.net. Check it out. Okay. Here we go, folks. Let go of the need to be understood by everybody. And some of you are exhausted because you keep trying to explain yourself to people who have already decided not to understand. You write longer messages. You provide more details. You clarify your motives. You show evidence. You replay conversations. You lose sleep trying to find the perfect words. You believe that if you explain it one more time, they will finally say, I understand. But some people do not understand. Some people do. Some people simply agree. Some people disagree. Some people understand perfectly. They simply do not care. Some people understand what you're saying, but admitting it would require them to change. Some people need you to be the villain because that sort of protects them from responsibility. You do not have to defend your heart in every courtroom people create in their minds. You do not have to attend every argument to which you are invited. You do not have to correct every rumor. You do not have to answer every accusation. You don't have to explain a boundary repeatedly. Sometimes the answer is no. No, not no followed by 4 paragraphs, not no followed by an apology, not no followed by a list of reasons designed to make the other person approve. Just no. The people who truly love you may not agree with every decision you make, but they will not require you to destroy yourself to prove that you love them. You may need to grieve, which you release. Letting go does not always feel empowering. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes you know that the relationship was unhealthy, but you still miss that person. Sometimes you know the opportunity is over, but you still grieve what you hoped it would become. Sometimes you're not grieving what happened. You're grieving what could have happened. You're grieving the future you imagined. You're grieving the apology you expected. You're grieving the family you wanted. You're grieving the friendship you believed would last forever. You're grieving the version of yourself you thought you would become by now. And grief does not mean you made the wrong decision. You can miss somebody and still know they cannot return. You can love somebody and still know the relationship is not healthy. You can mourn a chapter and still close it. You can cry while letting go. You can shake while taking the step. Courage does not always look like confidence. Sometimes courage looks like tears and trembling hands. Sometimes courage looks like blocking the number and then crying for an hour. Sometimes courage looks like packing the box. Sometimes courage looks like admitting that the dream has changed. Sometimes courage looks like accepting that you cannot repair something alone. Do not shame yourself for grieving. Grief is evidence that something mattered. But grief is not permission to reopen every door. Honor what was good. Learn from what was painful. Then keep moving. One of the hardest things to release is not a person or possession. It is an identity. The failure, the victim, the addict, the rejected one, the abandoned one, the person who always loses, the person nobody chooses, the person who is always struggling, the person who ruins everything, the person who can never get ahead. Maybe those words describe something you experienced. Maybe they do not have to become your name, but they do not have to become your name. You may have failed. You're not a failure. You may have been rejected. You are not rejection. You may have been abandoned. You are not abandonment. You may have struggled with addiction. You are not limited to the worst moment of that struggle. You may have been harmed, but your identity is larger than what somebody did to you. You may have lost, but your story is not over. There are people who become so identified with their pain that healing feels like losing themselves. The pain has been there so long that they do not know who they are without it. They know how to talk about the betrayal. They know how to talk about the injustice. They know how to talk about what went wrong. But ask them what they want to build, and they don't know. Healing requires you to develop a life that is not organized around what hurts you. You are not denying the pain. You are refusing to worship it. You're refusing to let the wound become the center of every conversation and every decision. The wound may always be a part of your story, more like the scar, hopefully, but it does not have to be the title. You cannot receive. Here's the next thing I want to talk about here. You need to make room for what comes next. And you cannot receive something new while your hands are clenched around what is over. You cannot make room for healthy relationships while filling every space with people who drain you. You cannot make room for peace while constantly feeding conflict. You cannot make room for purpose while spending every hour distracted. You cannot make room for new opportunities while remaining loyal to every old limitation. Releasing is not only about loss. Releasing creates space to breathe, space to think, space to pray, space to heal, space to hear God, space to discover who you are when you are no longer managing everybody else's crisis, space to build, space to become. Some of you are asking God to add something to a life that is already overflowing with things that need to be removed. You're praying for more while God is saying, make room. Make room in your schedule. Make room in your home. Make room in your mind. Make room in your relationships. Make room in your heart. This summer break that is coming for Your Path Live should not simply become a pause in programming. It should become space to reflect, space to complete something, space to release something, space to hear something you have been too busy to hear. We're not going to a break because the work is finished. Trust me. We're going into a break so that the work can continue differently. That's tonight. Homework, of course. Tonight, I want you to make a list. Write down 5 things. Something you are carrying that does not belong to you. Something that you're carrying that does not belong to you. Maybe it's somebody else's guilt, somebody else's responsibility, somebody else's opinion. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, something that belonged to an earlier season. Routine, a relationship, a role. So number 2, something that belonged to an earlier season. Number 3, something you need to forgive. Not excuse, not restore automatically, but forgive. Okay. Number 4, something you need to grieve. Give yourself permission to acknowledge the loss. Number 5, something you need to make room for. Peace, health, prayer, purpose, a better relationship, a new opportunity, rest. Write it down. Then ask, what is one practical step I can take before next Wednesday? Remove an item, cancel a commitment, have a conversation, set a boundary, stop checking the page, delete the old messages, return something that is not yours, ask for help, schedule counseling, clean out the room, write the letter you may never send, make one physical action that represents release. Because sometimes your heart needs your hands to participate. Okay. I'll go a little bit about what we've got coming up. And then I've got another segment I want to go over with you. Just go a little further with this. So let's go with this. Tonight is the second part of our closing journey toward the season 3 finale of Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. Season 3, I can't believe it. Tonight we've talked about what cannot come with us. Next Wednesday, June 24th, we're going to deal with another difficult subject. Finish what you started. We're going to talk about why we begin with excitement and disappear when the work becomes difficult. We're going to talk about unfinished responsibilities, unfinished conversations, unfinished goals, unfinished healing, unfinished work. And then on Wednesday, July 1st, we'll come together for our season 3 finale. That's going to be a 2-hour finale, folks. That will be our final broadcast before the summer break. But I do not want you merely watching the calendar. I want you preparing. What are you releasing? What are you completing? What are you changing? Who are you becoming? Because when season 4 begins, I do not want us simply returning to the screen. I want us returning with testimonies. I want somebody to say, during the break, I finally made the decision. During the break, I set the boundary. During the break, I began healing. During the break, I finished what I kept postponing. During the break, I put down something I had carried for years. Okay. You have carried it long enough. You've explained it long enough. You've defended yourself long enough. You've replayed it long enough. You've allowed it to interrupt your sleep long enough. You've allowed it to control your relationships long enough. You've allowed it to shape the way you see yourself long enough. You do not have to take it into the next chapter. Put down the guilt. Put down the resentment. Put down the need to be understood by everybody. Put down the responsibility that belongs to somebody else. Put down the role that is destroying you. Put down the relationship that requires you to disappear in order for it to survive. Put down the old name. Put down the old story. Put down the relief that your best days are behind you. Put it down. Not because it did not matter. Not because it didn't hurt. Not because you have forgotten. Put it down because you need your hands free for what comes next. Now this show, hold on a second here. Here we go. Before we close tonight, I want to go a little deeper. Because sometimes we know what we need to release. We know the relationship is unhealthy. We know the habit is destructive. We know the resentment is poisoning us. We know the role is exhausting us. We know the chapter has ended. We know we cannot carry it into the next season, and yet we still hold on. Why? Because letting go is not only about losing what hurt us. Sometimes letting go also means losing what became familiar. Even pain can become familiar. Even dysfunction can become predictable. Even chaos can feel safer than uncertainty when chaos is all you've known. So tonight, I want to ask you a very honest question. What are you afraid will happen if you let it go? Are you afraid you'll be alone? Are you afraid people will become angry rather? It must be dinner time. Are you afraid people will become angry? Are you afraid they will talk about you? Are you afraid you will look selfish? Are you afraid that without the struggle, you will not know who you are? You're afraid that releasing the past means admitting that it will never become what you hope it will become. Are you afraid that if you stop caring everybody else, nobody will need you anymore? Sometimes the reason we cannot let go is not because the thing is good. It is because the fear attached to releasing it feels greater than the pain attached to keeping it. Tonight, we need to confront that fear. Fear of being alone, big one. Some people stay in harmful relationships because they are afraid of being alone. They know that the relationship is draining them. They know there's no trust. They know the same promises have been broken repeatedly. They know the relationship requires them to betray themselves. But they stay because even unhealthy companionship feels less frightening than an empty room. Let me say this carefully. There is a difference between being alone and being lonely. You can surround yourself. You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. You can be in a relationship and still feel unseen. You can sleep beside somebody and still feel abandoned. You can have hundreds of contacts in your phone and still have nobody you trust with the truth. Sometimes solitude is not punishment. Sometimes solitude is recovery. Sometimes God allows quiet space because your spirit has been surrounded by so much noise that you can no longer hear yourself think. Sometimes being alone for a season is how you rediscover who you are when you are no longer adjusting yourself around somebody else's instability. Do not run back to dysfunction simply because silence feels unfamiliar. The silence may be where healing begins. Fear of disappointing people. Now, some of you know what you need to do. You do. But you're afraid somebody will be disappointed. And they may be. They may not understand why you are no longer paying the bill. They may not understand why you cannot continue rescuing them. They may not understand why you need space. They may not understand why the answer is no. But you have to learn that somebody else's disappointment is not always evidence that you made the wrong decision. People become disappointed when they do not receive what they expected. But expectations can be unreasonable. Expectations can be manipulative. Expectations can be built around your lack of boundaries. And some people are not disappointed because you harmed them. They're disappointed because you no longer have unrestricted access. They no longer have unrestricted access to you. And that is not the same thing. You are not required to destroy your health, your peace, your finances, your family, your ministry, or your future to prevent everybody else from feeling disappointed. You can be compassionate without becoming controlling. You can be compassionate without becoming controlled, rather. You can be compassionate without becoming controlled. You can be kind without surrendering your judgment. You can listen without automatically agreeing. You can love somebody and still choose a different direction. Fear of what people will say. And some people remain trapped because they are afraid of gossip. What will people say if I leave? What will people say if I change? What will people say if I admit that it did not work? What will people say if I begin again? Let me help you tonight. People are going to talk. They talked when you stayed. They will talk when you leave. They talked when you said yes. They will talk when you said no. They talked when you struggled. They will talk when you succeed. They talked when you were silent. They will talk when you finally speak. You cannot surrender your entire future to people who are committed to discussing a life they do not have to live. They do not have to wake up with your anxiety. They do not have to carry your exhaustion. They do not have to live with the consequences of your choices. They do not have to repair the damage. They are commentators. You are the person living the life. Stop giving spectators authority over decisions they will never have to carry. Seek wise counsel. Listen to people who love you enough to tell you the truth, but do not build your life around rumor prevention. You will never control every version of the story. Live with integrity and let time reveal what words cannot. Fear that letting go means failure. Sometimes we hold on because we not want to admit that something did not work. We invested time, we invested money, we invested emotion, we made promises. We told people it was going to succeed. We defended it. We stayed longer than we should have because leaving felt like admitting failure. But staying in something harmful simply because you have already invested in it does not redeem the investment. It only increases the cost. There are times when faithfulness means perseverance. There are also times when wisdom means accepting that a particular approach, relationship, plan, or season has reached its end. Ending something does not erase everything you learned. Changing direction does not mean the entire journey was wasted. You can be grateful for the lesson and still admit that the chapter is finished. You can acknowledge that you made the best decision you knew how to make at the time. You can say, I believed this could work. I gave it my effort. I learned what I needed to learn. And now I know that remaining here would cost me more than leaving. That is not always failure. Sometimes that is maturity. Fear that you will lose your identity. Some people have spent so long being the caretaker, the rescuer, the victim, the peacemaker, the struggling one or strong one that they do not know how they are without the role. If you stop fixing everybody, who are you? If you stop talking about what happened, who are you? If the crisis ends, what will you focus on? If the relationship ends, what will define you? If you are no longer the one everybody depends on, will you still matter? This is where healing can feel frightening because the pain may have become part of your identity. You may have built friendships around discussing it. You may have built routines around managing it. You may have built your understanding of yourself around surviving it, but you are more than what happened to you. You are more than the people you have rescued. You are more than the role you played in somebody else's story. You are more than your worst year. You are more than the thing that broke your heart. You are more than the label they gave you. You are more, you may need time to discover who you are without the burden. Now, that is not emptiness. That is possibility. That is possibility. Now, fear that forgiveness will let them get away with it. Some people hold on to resentment because releasing it feels like allowing the other person to escape responsibility. You think, if I let go of this anger, then what they did will not matter. If I forgive them, they win. If I stop talking about it, everybody will forget what happened. But your resentment is not a courtroom. Your bitterness is not a prison in which the other person serves a sentence. In many cases, they are continuing with their life while you are the one losing sleep. Forgiveness does not erase accountability. Forgiveness does not prevent consequences. Forgiveness does not mean restoring trust. Forgiveness means refusing to let their wrongdoing become your permanent emotional address. You can release the bitterness and still tell the truth. You can forgive and still maintain the boundary. You can forgive and still decline reconciliation. You can forgive and still allow legal, relational, professional, or personal consequences to remain. Forgiveness is not pretending nothing happened. It is deciding that what happened will not continue controlling everything that happens next. Fear of the empty space. Letting go creates space, and space can feel uncomfortable. When you remove the relationship, there's an empty chair. When you stop the habit, there is unfilled time. When you leave the role, there is no longer a familiar routine. When the conflict ends, there is silence. And many people rush to fill the space because they do not know how to sit in it. They replace one unhealthy relationship with another. They replace one addiction with another. They replace one distraction with another. They replace one crisis with another. Do not be in such a hurry to fill every empty space. Let the space breathe. Let the space teach you. Let the space reveal what you're avoiding. Let the space become prayer. Let the space become rest. Let the space become creativity. Let the space become healing. Let the space become the place where God introduces you to the person you are becoming. Not every empty space is evidence that something is missing. Not sometimes empty space is evidence that something harmful has finally been removed. Take the one thing you wrote on your release list and then complete this sentence. If I let this go, I'm afraid that. Do not judge the answer. Write the honest answer. If I let this go, I'm afraid I will be alone. If I let this go, I'm afraid they will hate me. If I let this go, I'm afraid I will regret it. If I let this go, I'm afraid I will not know what to do next. If I let this go, I'm afraid people will blame me. If I let this go, I'm afraid I will have to admit that I wasted years. Now, ask a second question. What is holding on already costing me? My peace, my sleep, my confidence, my health, my finances, my relationships, my spiritual life, my future? And then ask one final question. Which cost am I willing to continue paying? Because holding on has a cost. Letting go may have a cost too. But one cost keeps you imprisoned. The other cost may lead you toward freedom. I want you to say this with me. I do not have to remain attached to what is destroying my peace. I do not have to carry responsibilities that do not belong to me. I do not have to explain every boundary. I do not have to remain where I am repeatedly harmed. I do not have to let fear make every decision. I can grieve and still move forward. I can forgive and still use wisdom. I can love and still say no. I can release the past without denying that it mattered. I can enter the next chapter with open hands. I will not carry every burden into my future. I will trust God with what I release. I will trust God with the space that remains. And I will move forward. Let's get back to the little section here. Okay. Before we pray, I want to say this. Make sure you check out the Zoo, folks. There's a lot of great new stuff on there. Check out the scheduling on there. Check out the programming on there. If you look on there, there's a calendar. You can look and see what's coming up next. Please check it out and let me know what you think. Also, if you haven't gotten on our Roku channel yet, please do that. Channel 603 on Roku and Fire TV. Check that out. We're live on there right now. Hello, folks on Roku and Fire TV. Nice to see you. We got, just because we're on some break on this show doesn't mean everything else is stopping. Everything else is still going the same. Everything else is still, the ministry's still going. The church is still going. We're still doing a lot of the same stuff here. Just taking a little break of the show, which we need to do every now and then. Okay. Coming up this Friday. The next thing we got coming up this Friday is the official starts the weekend with Bishop Mark on the Zoo, THEZUE.net. It's at 5 p.m. Central Time. It's a way to just try to bring in the weekend and let go of the week. Some good music, some good talking, 90 minutes of just having a good time, relaxing. Sunday, we have Exploring Your Faith Live with Bishop Mark, followed by the Bishop's Roundtable, which is our Sunday service. It's at 3 p.m. Central Time. You can catch that at dulc.online.church, dulc.online.church. You can catch it on the Zoo. You can also catch it on Facebook and Roku and all the other places you're watching right now. dulc.online.church for 3 o'clock service on Sunday. Then, of course, back next week, coming up next Wednesday is our second to last show. We only have 2 shows left, folks. Second to last show. That's going to be on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, right here at yourpath.online.church, or of course on Roku, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching right now. That's where you'll be watching next week at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5:30. Okay. So join us through all those wonderful things. And let's pray. Let's close this out in prayer. Because this was a big one today, and it's going to get even bigger next week. Let's pray. Gracious and loving God, we come before you tonight carrying burdens that have become too heavy. Some of them belong to us, and some of them never did. Some were given to us by people who could not carry their own responsibilities. Some were placed upon us by guilt, fear, shame, grief, and the need to be accepted. Help us recognize that we must release. Give us courage to put down what has become harmful. Give us wisdom to distinguish faithfulness from fear, compassion from enabling, forgiveness from renewed access, and love from self-destruction. Help us forgive those who have hurt us. Help us accept that some apologies may never come. Help us grieve what has ended. Help us honor the lessons without rebuilding the pain. Help us release the old identities that no longer reflect who we are becoming. For the person who feels responsible for everybody, give them permission to rest. For the person carrying guilt, remind them that repentance leads towards life, not endless punishment. For the person trapped by resentment, begin the work of freedom. For the person afraid to set a boundary, give them strength. For the person who knows a chapter must close, give them peace. For the person grieving what might have been, hold them close. Guide Dallas Universal Life Church as we continue into year 11. Guide Your Path Live as we move toward the conclusion of season 3. Let this coming transition become more than a change in schedule. Let it become a season of healing, reflection, completion, and renewal. Make room for us. Make room in us for what you are preparing next. Make room in us for what you are preparing next. Free our hands, free our hearts, free our minds, and give us the courage to walk forward without dragging every burden of yesterday behind us. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Wow. That was a good one. It was a good one today, folks. I really enjoyed that one. And I preached a lot to myself on that one. Just so you know, I'm right there with you. A lot of these issues are very common among all of us. We all share those things. And we can share the healing from them too. We can share how to survive and how to move on and how to forgive and how to let go. It's important. Are you getting that? I hope so. I hope you're understanding how important that really is. That you are not defined by your past experiences that have hurt you. You're not. They're part of you. You're always going to have scars. But scars are not make you who you are. Right? Am I making sense now, folks? Okay. This has been Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. I am the Most Reverend Dr. Mark Zorn, Archbishop and founder of Dallas Universal Life Church. Now remember, everything that was part of your story does not have to remain part of your daily life. You can honor what happened without continuing to live inside it. You can remember without returning. You can forgive without reopening the door. You can love without carrying somebody else's responsibility. And you can move forward without taking everything with you. Next Wednesday, June 24th, join me for Finish What You Started. Then on Wednesday, July 1st, we'll come together for our special season 3 finale, the 2-hour special, The Next Chapter. Until next time, may God bless you. May God keep you. And may God give you the courage to put down what you were never meant to carry forever. Can you give me the optional, that's it. What we're saying after that. That's it. I can't give you anything else. Okay? Just ask for God to give you the courage to put down whatever you're never meant to carry forever. Thanks you folks for watching. I enjoyed it tonight, and I will see you next Wednesday. Hopefully I'll see you before then. See you this Friday maybe. See you Sunday maybe. Good night.
Thank you for joining us for Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. God bless you.